These are the markets I love. I love to negotiate. I always tell my clients, I negotiate on behalf of my clients like it's my money. And if I can save you $1, it's like saving me $1. It's really important that you have somebody that enthusiasm and passion around negotiation, and they're not just trying to earn a commission check and get a deal done. Today we're going to talk about 5 things that I think reveal an inexperienced or maybe a part-time agent in our industry. So these are 5 ninja questions that are going to help you navigate this road if you're interviewing an agent to decipher whether or not this agent has the expertise and the local market knowledge that is necessary for you when you go to buy or sell a home. First and foremost, number 1, do they fully understand the local market trends and everything that's happening specifically in your market? I know I talk about this a lot. For instance, right now I'm seeing a lot of agents, friends of mine that have been in the business for a long time, decide that they're going to go 6 months and a day in Florida and the other 6 months and change here in Minnesota, right? For tax reasons, for retirement reasons, for enjoyment reasons, okay? I've had many of these conversations with how can you leave the market for 6 months and still have your finger on the pulse of the local market trends that have happened. If I just take the last 6 months of 2023 and how quickly things changed and prices dropped and buyer demand went away, in the blink of an eye, I wouldn't have any idea what was going on if I left for those 6 months. So I think understanding, are they full-time in your marketplace? Are they experienced enough, or do they have a team of people around them with that experience that can give you the market knowledge that you need in your neighborhood to properly price your home or guide you as a buyer to make an offer on that property that is within the price point that it should be in today's current market trends. I'm seeing so many agents that are either new to the industry or part-time in the industry, just not able to keep up with how fast this market moves. So here's the question I want you to ask that agent that you're interviewing. Can you provide solid facts and data on homes that you've sold or buyers that you've represented in my neighborhood? Show me the proof. Number 2, poor communication skills. So I cannot tell you how important effective communication is to a smooth transaction. Inexperienced agents right now, and a lot of the younger agents for that matter, and their inability to communicate, specifically verbally communicate, has made this new market, I call it, challenging. Text messages are great, but text messages aren't always the way to communicate certain things throughout a real estate transaction. Emails are great, but emails aren't the way to negotiate on your behalf as a seller or a buyer, okay? Picking up the phone, face-to-face meetings, getting elbow to elbow, and negotiating on your behalf is really, really important. I can't tell you how many times, I've received a text message or an email that I had to read a few times just to clearly understand what that agent was trying to communicate to me. So I think in today's modern tech world, although some of those communication tools are needed, necessary, and important, I think there's a time and place to pick up the phone, make a phone call, and communicate in such a way that's effective for what you're trying to accomplish. Recently, I was in a multiple offer situation, and I was representing the buyer. I had a pretty good relationship with the listing agent. We had a very strong lender that had this buyer approved, and property went into multiple offers. My buyers ultimately won, but that was purely due to my ability to have a good, cordial conversation with this agent about what the seller wanted and how my buyers could meet the demands or expectations of the seller. Come to find out the seller was building, they needed a little extra time to move out of their existing home to get into their new construction home. There's some things we were able to do to navigate the move-out date. There's some things we were able to do to give them the funds they needed on the back end so that they could have the money they needed to purchase their next home. There's just a lot of little moving parts there that we couldn't have communicated through a text message or an email that the two of us were able to work out, and ultimately my buyer won because of several things, but the most important being our communications that we had throughout the transaction, and it just wouldn't have happened through a text message or an email. So here's the question you need to ask your agent. How do you usually keep your clients updated throughout the transaction? How are you going to communicate to me? How frequently? And if I don't like how you're communicating to me, can we come up with a different plan, or is it always going to be a cookie cutter email on Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock? So the third point and question that you'll want to ask your agent, do they have the adequate network and the adequate resources to guide you through the transaction from start to finish? Can they truly provide you that white glove service from A to Z? And a lot of agents say they have the network and resources, but I think it's important that you get a better understanding of who they work with and why, and if that network is going to fit you and your style throughout the transaction. I can tell you that just based on the relationships I have with home inspectors, for instance, if we have to, as your buyer's agent, shorten an inspection period to 48 hours, I have inspectors that can put me first and get your deal done by inspecting that home in a shorter time frame and pleasing that seller. So there's little nuances throughout the transaction that my network of people and the relationships that I have and the resources that I have can get things done that maybe other agents or new agents or part-time agents don't have. So here's the question I want you to ask that agent. Can you tell me about your network of professionals like inspectors, stagers, photographers, title companies, whatever that might be, so that I can get a better understanding of who else I'm going to be working with and what your relationship is with those people? And if they can't answer that question immediately, move on. So the fourth question I want you to ask your agent, whether you're buying or selling, is tell me about your negotiation skills. And I think the negotiations they went away for 3 years during COVID, right? It was who could show up to a property first, write the best offer, give away a blood sample, their firstborn, waive inspections, waive every contingency under the earth, and basically sell the offer to the seller, right? So there's no negotiation skills. Well, we're getting back into a normal market where there's negotiations again. And these are the markets I love. I love to negotiate. I always tell my clients, I negotiate on behalf of my clients like it's my money, right? If I can save you $1, it's like saving me $1. So it's really important that you have somebody that has that enthusiasm and passion around negotiation, and they're not just trying to earn a commission check and get a deal done. I will always, always, always negotiate on behalf of my clients in their best interests throughout the transaction. If there's ever a way I can save them money, I will do that. I've had many, many cases where a client has told me, look, Wade, you have my permission to negotiate up to $950,000, and I'm able to get it for them for $900,000. And I'll call them and they're just elated that I saved them $50,000. A lot of agents would have just taken that $50,000 and spent it to get the deal done. That's not something I'm going to do. And I think the best way to find out, specifically as a seller, if your agent has any negotiation skills whatsoever, when you're interviewing that listing agent and they're sitting across the kitchen table from you, and they said, I'm going to charge you, just for sake of conversation, I'm going to charge you 7% to sell your home. Look them in the eye and say, I'll hire you right now if you'll do it for 5%. And if that agent lays down, gives away 2% of their own income at the kitchen table, get up, escort them to the front door and say, I don't need you because I just out-negotiated you. If you can out-negotiate your agent on their own income, there is no way that they're going to negotiate on your behalf when it comes to crunch time and selling your home and trying to squeeze out those extra dollars from a buyer. So that's the best way and the best advice I can give you as a seller to figure out whether or not your agent has any negotiation skills at all. So last but not least is the ethical missteps that I'm seeing in the industry right now. I've been doing this long enough to know to see the cycles in the business, right? When the real estate market gets good, everybody gets in the business. When the real estate market softens, the part-timers get out of the business, and that's when the 20% of the agents that are full-time, good, ethical, experienced, professional agents stay in the business. And frankly, when we get into those cycles, that's really the best time in this business, in my opinion. That's when we shine. We're at one of those peaks right now where there's a lot of people in the business. And I can't tell you how many, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, ethical missteps I've seen from these inexperienced agents that can put sellers in, frankly, legal trouble. It's hard to get into specifics, but I will tell you that it's ugly out there. I've got friends that serve on the Board of Ethics with the National and Local Association of Realtors, and they're just shaking their head at the things that they're seeing right now and the complaints they're getting from consumers. Just simple, basic things that are either being said or done just to get a deal done and get a commission check. And it's really ugly out there right now. So I would encourage you to really get a feel for the ethical standards that your agent has. Make sure somebody you're working with either has a lot of good reviews online, you're getting a referral from somebody that you trust for this specific agent that you're going to work with. Please interview more than one agent. Just because we have Realtor behind our name doesn't mean we're all the same. I had Realtor behind my name in 1999 when I got licensed, and it's still behind my name 24 years later. It's not like it's an industry where I go from sales to vice president to executive vice president to president to CEO. My title doesn't change as my experience grows. I have the same title as that agent that just got licensed last week. So understand that we're not all the same just because we have the same title. We don't all have the same ethical standards, although we should. It's important that you interview multiple agents and really clearly identify if that agent's ethical standards align with yours.
Thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. If you have any feedback for this episode or want to suggest a future topic or even possible guests, head to wadehanson.com. There you can get links to my Facebook and LinkedIn pages. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see the video version of this podcast too. Again, thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. We'll talk soon.